Hi, Analisa Six here to give Capricorn their monthly horoscope for the month of April, the year 2023. I am coming to you from Lady of Leisure headquarters. It's a little crooked. I have a horrible background. I need to really work on this whole situation. I thought putting a tapestry up would be cool, and it doesn't look good on here. Got my old tarot sign back when I used to have my natural hair color, and I had my amazingly talented friend Carolyn draw this for me, and my friend Sandra blew these up and made these little signs for me. I thought it'd be a cool background, but it just kind of looks messy and tacky. um Capricorn, you've been going through some stuff with your home. And I have a friend who's a Capricorn who is going through stuff with her home. And I'm speaking to all Capricorns, not just you. Okay. I promise. I swear. I have a chart I'm looking at. It's not, astrology is real. I'm not targeting anybody I actually know in real life, but it's crazy. So the Aries season for a Capricorn horoscope hits the area that has to do with home and family specifically. And outside of Aries season, we've also just had a lot of planets making their way through Aries. Last month, we had Venus making its way through Aries. We had Juno, the asteroid, making her way through Aries. Jupiter Aries is in Aries and still is. And then Mercury entered Aries in March too. So by the time we got to April, we still have the sun in Aries. We still have Jupiter in Aries. We have Chiron, the planetoid, in Aries, and we have Vesta in Aries. And now Mercury has moved out of Aries and is in Taurus. Venus is in Taurus. And Juno is also in Taurus. So we have a lot of Taurus energy happening in the chart right now, but we still have a lot of Aries energy. So the home and family life is still very much highlighted. There's still quite a bit that you're working through. But, as Aries season and some of these planets and asteroids start to move out of Aries, your home and family life won't be as highlighted. But, there's a push for growth and change and expansion when it comes to the home, and even some healing stuff around issues with family, potentially with Chiron there. Taurus, however, being highlighted now with Mercury and Venus there, and also Juno there, is the area of the Capricorn chart that has to do with our creative expression. And so you might be feeling a really big boost around wanting to do more things that inspire you and inspire that inner child nature. I remember one of my friends a long time ago, I made a comment to them about the inner child, and they automatically kind of took it as your traumatized inner child. And I was like, no, your inner child is neutral, right? When we're in therapy, we often talk about our inner child being affected by trauma that actually happened in childhood. And so it's like we have this internal child that's traumatized. We tend to focus on the traumatized inner child in therapy. That's what I'm trying to say. But we also have an inner child that has nothing to do with our trauma, that also is the aspect of ourselves that enjoys things like play and freedom and exploration and fun. It's not all just about trauma and what our inner child is having going on in a traumatized somatic way. There's also what our inner child has going on in a fun way, in a playful way. And if we're disconnected from our ability to play or have fun or have joy, there can be imbalances and health problems. And if we're serious and driven and work focused all of the time, it's like all work and no play makes Johnny a dull boy, like that whole thing. So it's important that we have a relationship to play and joy and our inner child that is free to express themselves and explore themselves. The area of this chart, the house that Taurus is in this chart, is the house that Leo traditionally rules. And so Leo is all about self-expression, creative expression, passion, romance, seeking validation, but also, learning how to validate from within, those types of themes. And Taurus is a very artistic sign. It really enjoys art and music and expressing itself that way. And so if you feel a boost in your life around artistic expression, or even maybe you're not the one that expresses yourself that way, maybe you just like those things and it's fun for you to go enjoy them, like going to an art gallery or going to a concert or surrounding yourself with art or nature that is inspiring to you. Also, we can express ourselves and have fun with play through sports, and also things that are more active and more physical. And so if you're the type of Capricorn that's more inclined towards those things, and that's what gets you in touch with your inner child, that's still great. That it's still, you got your fantasy baseball league, or maybe your actual softball team or something. Like, doing that kind of stuff is really positive for you for the month of April with the Taurus energy happening. The other thing about Taurus that's really positive for Capricorn is Earth likes Earth. So Taurus is making a harmonious trine to Capricorn. So it's a really great time for the self to get kind of like a boost of energy and inspiration towards goals and, creative projects that you're doing. Another frequency that we're going to be having in April in a couple days is that Venus is actually going to be leaving the Taurus party, which is a bummer. I know. I love Venus in Taurus, and it's going to be entering Gemini, which I also love. I love Venus in Gemini. It's the Lovers card in the tarot. It's the esoteric ruler of Gemini, and it's just a really great energy for kind of taking a lot of art. It's good for writers. Like, if you are somebody that likes to write or express yourself through the word or teach or learning, it's a really great energy for that. It's a really great energy for conjoining with others on ideas. The area of the chart that this hits for Capricorn has to do with your health and your daily routines. And so you might really enjoy analyzing or brainstorming what routines you've had and whether or not you want to expand or grow beyond them, or incorporate new things that bring you joy and pleasure into your daily routine. That's a really positive thing for the Venus in Gemini transit for Capricorn. Venus, when it enters Gemini, is also going to make a trine to Pluto in Aquarius. And so there is, these houses that Venus and Pluto are in also have a certain inclination towards the work that we do and the money that we make. And so this is actually positive if you're needing to generate more income or business, to think of some new tactics or new ways to do that. If you're employed already and you're thinking about wanting to aspire towards a promotion or working your way up in your career in some way, this is a really good time to start figuring out how to make that happen. You might not necessarily see it happen during this transit, but it might be something that you want to start putting into motion, if you're starting to take your job more seriously. A couple other things that we have is Mars and Cancer for the month of April. And at the beginning of the month, Mars and Saturn made a trine. Saturn's in Pisces and Mars is in Cancer. So we had a water trine, and water is the opposite element of Earth, right? So Capricorn's an earth sign, Cancer is a water sign, and Capricorn and Cancer are the opposites of each other. They oppose each other. And so we have Mars transiting the house that represents our partnerships and our relationships, marriage, and it's in a very emotional sign. Mars likes being in Capricorn. It's exalted in Capricorn. It's in its fall in Cancer. And so it's a little bit of an uncomfortable placement for Mars to be. And then Mars is also in a house in this horoscope that it also does not do great in, which is the relationship house. And so there might be some conflict if you're a Capricorn in a relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship or even a partnership, like friendship, partnership dynamic, or a business partnership. You might experience some conflict and some tension around having to work through being vulnerable and communicating feelings more effectively. So that's going to be happening for the month of April. So it might require you to learn some new ways to talk to your partner, some new ways to open up, some new ways of being more sensitive. Capricorn is sometimes insensitive without meaning to be. Capricorn people are sensitive people, but they put on this kind of front like they're not a lot of times. Like, I'm grounded and I'm not emotional and I'm together and I'm success oriented and I'm driven and nothing can get in my way. That's a very stereotypical archetypal energy of Capricorn. And I'm not trying to diminish any of that, but it's very driven and very, very focused on what the plan is or the goals are. And sometimes that focus, that linear, hard focus, misses certain things around it that are happening that other people feel is insensitive. That's not Capricorn's intention. Usually Capricorn's just a very linear, like, kind of blinders on energy where it's just, it has a hard time when it's looking at this, going over here and also looking at all of this. Where some signs like Pisces or Sagittarius or Virgo or Gemini, they have a harder time focusing, but they are really good at seeing the big picture and also feeling everything everybody else is feeling in a room, not just being kind of centered on, okay, that's fine, this, which is more Capricorn. Is like the cardinal signs are more like, I'm focusing on this, get out of here with that. So, you know, Cancer being the opposite, the emotional cardinal sign, Cancer is actually a little too hyper focused on how everybody feels, but it's a little bit more aware of that going on. Sometimes it can focus on feelings too much, and Capricorn's better at grounding and being like, we don't need to be so emotional about that right now. It's really a pet peeve of mine when people say, don't be so emotional, or we don't need to be emotional, or take emotion out of it. But I've said those things many times in certain contexts, depending on the situation. And so it's kind of like, there's a balance, right? Of how do we, I was talking about this in another video, I think it was the one with Libra, where how do we have a balance where we're able to talk about feelings and still have emotion in it without being too linear or too practical to the point where it becomes dismissive and hurtful? And how do we maintain compassion and empathy without letting our emotional reactions dictate the circumstance or the situation, where it could actually make things worse or more explosive? And so that's something that is hard for all of us. I mean, this isn't just a Capricorn lesson that Capricorn needs to learn. This is a Mars and Cancer lesson that a lot of us are having to work through while Mars is in Cancer. And depending on where Mars is in the horoscope chart will dictate where it's kind of happening for you. And for you, it's the close personal relationships. And it's not necessarily communication based. It could be reaction based, which then turns into a communication thing, right? I think that people who tend to be more linear have a really hard time sometimes with the scope or bigness of all the factors that can play into an emotional situation. But Cancer, out of all the cardinal signs, since it rules the emotions in the cardinal sense, the water signs that rule emotions are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. So Cancer has this very cardinal, and cardinal is intentional. It's very initiatory. It's very linear on emotions and our emotional realm and our relationship to family and how we nurture ourselves and others. And it's very active in that way. It wants to be vulnerable, and it wants to talk about, well, I shouldn't say it wants to talk about, but it wants to feel things. It wants to feel things, and it wants to be needed and feel things. But again, sometimes it's more linear. So it's not always focusing on everybody else, right? And so that's the part that's hard with a Mars in Cancer, is Mars, sometimes we are focused too much on how we feel, or just how one person feels, but we're missing maybe kind of the bigger picture. But sometimes that's what's needed to get to the place where we feel more comfortable and confident being vulnerable, right? So some Capricorns are more integrated. Like if you're a Capricorn and you also have Cancer placement. So if you're a Capricorn with Cancer rising or a Cancer moon, or you're Cap rising with a Cancer sun or Cancer moon, or you have a Cap moon and your Cancer sun, you know, with another rising or something like that, you know, whatever combination, you're more integrated, like you're balanced in the Cancer Capricorn dynamic. But if, you know, let's say your sun is in Cancer and your rising is in Capricorn, and you're listening to this, Mars passing over your sun makes you more likely to take things personally and be reactive about it, and then have to scale back and work on more of the Capricorn energy of getting grounded and being more practical and less explosive. If you have, let's say, a Cancer moon and a Capricorn sun, the same thing, kind of like Mars passing over your moon could make you more emotionally reactive, because that's what Mars does. Mars amps everything up and is more of a reaction. But sometimes those reactions are good because it gets stuff out that we need to be working through and talking about. And then Venus in Gemini, you know, is here to kind of help resolve communication dynamics. And Mercury in Taurus is also going to be helping us out with some of that stuff when it's stationing retrograde, which is difficult. I mean, obviously retrogrades are hard, But the value of it is that we work through things and hopefully we get to some kind of peaceful resolution, which is what Venus and Mercury are both desperately trying to help us with in April. So your relationship might have a little bit of tipsy-turvy stuff. If you're dating, if you're a Capricorn and you're in the dating world, this is probably going to be a challenging time for dating. However, it might be a sexy time for dating because Mars can rev up the libido when it's passing through relationship area. So it would be easy to get carried away with your sexual desires and then have an emotional reaction later, realizing that maybe that wasn't the best thing to do in that way. So there's a little bit of, you know, needing to check yourself before you wreck yourself energy with Mars passing through relationship, romantic houses for sure. We had a full moon on April 6th in Libra, and it was at 16 degrees of Libra. And where this is hitting in the horoscope chart for Capricorn, again, Aries and Libra square Capricorn. So there's a lot of tension in the air right now for the Capricorn individual, just having square energy on it. And the Libra moon might have squared you depending on what degree your rising or sun sign is in. Let's see. So it looks like the Libra moon was hitting your career house. So this is a great time. Like the full moon this year was a really good time for you to set intentions towards what you want to call in your career. If you're looking to kind of change careers or level up in your career, setting intentions towards manifesting that was really positive for you around this full moon. We have a solar eclipse on April 20th. It's going to be at 29 degrees Aries. And so really intense energy entering eclipse season. And again, this is kind of like a really pivotal time for your home and family life. So if you've been feeling kind of this buildup around changes in your home or with your family, the eclipse might kind of push whatever else needs to happen to get momentum around those things. If you're moving, you know, the eclipse might kind of really push some stuff forward. If you've had conflict in your family and you're trying to work through the conflict, this eclipse might bring more of that up that needs to get worked through, but hopefully there's some resolution. You know, it's a very intense, like eclipses are intense, like they're catalysts for change. And the change we feel kind of the ripple effect of over a 6-month period. And so we're entering the Aries Libra eclipse beginnings, and then it's going to go back into Taurus and Scorpio. And then at the end of the year, we'll have Aries and Libra again. And so it's just another shift of energy that is occurring this year. And then right after that solar eclipse, we're going to have the sun enter Taurus with the moon. So there's kind of this weird little new moon in Taurus energy, which is really good for setting intentions around our creativity again and really like harnessing that energy. And then the day after, Mercury stations retrograde in Taurus. So again, you know, the area of the chart where that's hitting for Capricorn has a lot to do with self-expression and confidence, you know, how we confidently express ourselves. So it's a really good time to be finding ways to reflect and review on what inspires you and how you bring joy into your life. Capricorns like to work hard, you know, very success-oriented signs in terms of whatever that means to you. And it can end up getting in the way of joy. You know, you can forget that joy is equally important to put on the calendar as your responsibilities, your tasks, your work. And so putting things that bring you joy on your calendar for April is going to be important because, you know, you can work yourself into the ground and forget to take care of yourself. So those are some things that I highly recommend you prioritize so that you're not wondering why you feel like a dull boy, no matter what gender you are. I'm just going to say dull boy as an archetype, you know, nobody likes a dull boy. So yeah, don't be a dull boy in April, Capricorn. Prioritize some fun, connect with your inner child, go play, go do some fun play stuff. Get out of here. Stop working so hard. All right. I'll see you next month. Good luck.